Okay, I know I usually start these videos off with like a little sketch bit or something, but there was a few reasons why I'm starting this video out this way. Because one, my guest for this video is late. I called him a week ago and he hasn't even showed up, so that's the reason why I kind of postponed this video. And two, I've been trying to figure out the right words to describe my thoughts on Super Mario Odyssey. Before anyone panics, let me say that this game is terrific, but trying to figure out the words to describe how I feel about this game, as well as comparing it to all the other great Mario games out there that I love, is a hard task. It's not like Legend of Zelda, where I'm familiar with the franchise and I played the games, but I didn't have a deep connection until Breath of the Wild. But with Mario, there's so many Mario games that I love. Super Mario 64, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Super Mario RPG, Mario Kart 8, the list goes on. Because it's part of my life. I love Super Mario. I love it more than any other video game franchise I can think of. But I know everyone's probably asking, how was Super Mario Odyssey? Is it as great as everyone's making it out to be? Or is it not as great compared to all the other titles I just brought up? Well, just find out. Before I even talk about the game, let's go over a bit of the hype train that I get. For years, I've been waiting for another 3D sandbox platformer like 64 and Sunshine, which I covered over the past few months of this year. And not to say all the other Mario games released were bad, they were good, but none that reached the legendary level compared to 64. As much as I love Galaxy 2, I was waiting for the return of a main core Mario title. I know I showed this chart back in my E3 of 2017 video, but it just goes to show that how there was so much more kind of the linear 3D Mario games compared to the core, or at least that's what Nintendo calls it, core Mario 3D platformers, where it was a lot more difficult and a lot more for challenging gamers. So when Nintendo showcased a trailer for Mario Odyssey back in its Nintendo Switch presentation, I was excited. I was more excited for this game than any other game that was lined up for the Switch. And to top it all off, when E3 came around, they showcased even more surprises for the game by showing the capture ability, and it just blew my mind of the possibilities that could come up with. So after months upon months of waiting, we finally got the game. I was off that entire week from work just playing Mario Odyssey, and how is it? It's great! It's great, it's amazing. I absolutely love the game. It's everything that I've wanted for another 3D Mario sandbox platformer, and even more. It's reached above my hype, above my expectations. It's one of my favorite games. Please don't ask which game I think is better, Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey, because we're not even going to compare that, because they're both drastically different games, and I love them both equally, if that says it. I love them both equally for what they are. It's kind of pointless to mention the story, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell it anyway. Bowser is getting ready to marry Princess Peach and is preparing a wedding at this very moment. He kicks Mario off the flagship as Mario is trying to save Peach, but lands in the Cap Kingdom and comes across this ghost-like entity known as Cappy. He helps Mario to rescue Peach because not only has Bowser kidnapped the princess, but also has kidnapped his sister Tiara. So Mario and Cappy team up to go all across the globe on the ship the Odyssey, collecting different power moons to get to Bowser's kingdom and rescue the princess. Personally, I really love Cappy, not just because of the whole game mechanics that you use with Cappy, but also because, well, he's just a fun little character who has his nice little jokes here and there, and is also very helpful with Mario. When I first saw the trailer and saw that Mario had eyes on his cap, I thought it was kind of odd, but now he's actually one of my favorite companions in most video games now. I will talk a little bit about Cappy here, but before I get to his mechanics, let's talk about the controls a little bit, which I think are perfect. They're just like, if not basically the same as Mario 64, but with Cappy, there's all sorts of moves that you can do. Mario has a few new moves as well, but there's a lot of great moves you could do with Cappy, such as throwing him and then jumping on him to get to greater heights. You can also use Cappy to attack enemies, attack all around using motion controls, which I played with the main Switch Pro controller, so I didn't really use the motion controls. And with the Switch Pro controller, you can't really use them that much. I didn't play the game using the Joy-Cons at all, but I heard that they work pretty well, but I highly recommend using the Switch Pro controller. It works well for me, and even though you don't get to use the hat throwing technique because it's kind of a nuisance to do with the Switch Pro controller, it works pretty well, I think. But continuing on with Cappy, his main mechanic is capture enemies, and then Maya can possess them to run around and use their abilities. And this is where the game really shines here. Maya can capture a lot of different enemies. You know, your basic enemies like your Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Hammer Bros, and etc. But he can capture a lot of new enemies that are really fun to use. I loved capturing the Tropical Wiggler, the Uproots, or these little tiny woodpecker-like things to climb up walls. They're really adorable. And I loved experimenting and trying out different enemies to figure out which ones I can use and how to use their abilities. Especially the Goombas, which I really loved, because once you capture a Goomba, you can jump onto another Goomba and make a whole tower of Goombas. But aside from capturing enemies, you can also capture non-living objects, such as poles to swing you across long buildings in New Donk City. You can also get to like spark power lines, manholes. There's a bunch of different stuff, and it really makes you think which enemies or objects you could capture to try to discover new power moons or to try out new abilities. It works extremely well, and it makes you really think on how to use different enemies and objects to reach across different parts of the world that you couldn't get to either way. And speaking of the worlds, all the levels are fantastic. They're all individually great, really memorable, and they're just so big in size. Sure, granted, there are some stages that are a bit bigger than others, but it doesn't matter because you're gonna have a lot of fun time going around each kingdom and figuring out where you could get the power moons, which are your stars basically. And trust me when I say, there's a lot of moons to collect. There's over 999 moons that you can collect to 100% complete the game. Sure, you can buy power moons at the store, especially after you beat the game. You can buy as much as possible to get 999, but it's more fun and challenging to try to find power moons. Some are easy to find, some are laying out in sight, and others are a bit more, well, they require a bit more strategy to get. Trust me, when I'm in a kingdom for like over an hour after being like the main story portion to continue to the next kingdom, as I stay trying to find others, I do find more, but you look at your list because you do have a little chart that says this is how many moons each kingdom you have. You realize that you're missing half of the moons, and some of them you can't even access. And believe it or not, after you beat the game, you unlock more power moons when you revisit each kingdom, which increases the find, and sometimes it can be really frustrating to try to find some, but it also makes you think, okay, I tried this, but what if I captured that enemy, that way I can probably get to that platform. It really makes you think and figure out how you can go about to each world, and it makes you have a deeper connection with each kingdom. Each kingdom is amazingly designed. In fact, visually this game is beautiful, and it definitely acquires a lot of different art styles, such as this volcanic kingdom, which is kind of cel shaded with the whole food ideal and the lava being kind of different color. It looks really well. In each kingdom, there's a lot of different power moons, and some of them can be attained with some different tasks. And with some power moons, some kingdoms will have very similar challenges, such as catching a bunny, or using the Goombas to stack up to reach to this Lady Goomba who will give you a power moon because, well, you showed up to show your affection to her. And in each kingdom, you'll most likely come across a kingdom that has an 8-bit level, which are amazing. Trust me, they're a lot of fun. And seeing 8-bit Mario transfers into a stage where you can also jump up to go back into 3D Mario, it really makes it stand out a lot. And I do love going to these 8-bit levels time to time. And not to mention, in each kingdom, you'll come across smaller linear levels. These levels offers 2 power moons in each kingdom, and there's a lot of them, but they're also a lot of fun. I really like it because it kind of balances out. It's like you're getting tired of traversing over this big world, and then you would come across this mini door that'll lead you to these linear type levels. Just when you think one mechanic is getting kind of bored, it throws you a different loophole with that mechanic that makes you think how to get to the power moons in each level. And those are a lot of fun. Trust me, I love going to those ones just to see the ideas they come up with in those linear levels. But one of the things that I love tremendously about this game is the use of the coins. Granted, in the past Mario games, coins, I didn't even matter. I mean, sure, granted, you can get 100 to get a 1-up, but even then, 1-ups and coins seemed kind of pointless in later Mario 3D titles. But in this one, they used the coins and live system in a way that I really appreciate, and I hope that they continue using that in more Mario titles. With the coins, you can actually gather them up and go to these Crazy Cap stores where you can buy different costumes, buy power moons as always. You can also buy an additional 3 points to your life meter, and also in each kingdom there's also very specific regional coins, which are these purple coins you can use to buy stamps for your Odyssey, little knickknacks, and so on. I really love this because it encourages you to actually go and find coins that you could buy all the costume stuff for your completionist desire. And speaking of, coins and lives also kind of come in the same pair a bit, because 1-ups, they're gone, there's none in sight. But if you die, you actually lose 10 coins. I like this because, for one, you don't have to worry about having to go on a ball crest to go collect lives for no reason, because let's face it, after you get 300 lives, or if you're playing Super Mario 3D World, crown lives, you don't really appreciate the lives that much. But here, if you die, you just lose a few coins and you continue playing and you feel more engaged too. I like that, I really do. And since I mentioned 1-ups earlier, I know some people have complained that they miss, power-ups such as the Fire Flower or other power-ups like that, but with the whole capture system, you don't really miss it a whole lot. And I just really loved how this game took the whole Mario formula and mixed it up a whole bit. But the big question that I know a lot of my friends personally ask me, is this my #1 favorite Mario game of all time, up there, like the best one out of all the Mario games? That is one of the most hardest questions ever, in my opinion. Now, before anyone panics, I love the game. I really do. It's one of my favorites. Heck, I'm gonna be replaying it here shortly because I want to continue finding out more about how to find all the different power moons, try to get all of them. Also, you can use certain amiibos to buy certain costumes, which will save you a couple of coins, which I personally like that. Now, granted, if I had to rank Super Mario Odyssey up, that would be difficult because it'll be in the top 3 for sure, but it will be tied between Super Mario 64 and Galaxy 2. That's not bad because those 3 games I love equally. However, if I really have to nitpick, there are a few small issues I have with Super Mario Odyssey. For one, and I know some people will probably hate me for saying this, sometimes the music is amazing and sometimes the music is kind of forgettable. Now, let me explain. There's a lot of great composition in this game. Jump Up Superstar is an amazing song. Trust me, I have it on my MP3 player. There's also a lot of great musical scores, such as the Cascade Kingdom, which is the main theme of Mario Odyssey. The Wooden Kingdom, Metro Kingdom is amazing, just the whole music. But there's also a few music tracks that I think don't stand out as much compared to all the other Mario games. Like, sure, I remember the kingdoms, the levels themselves, I remember. But like the musical compositions, I don't remember a whole lot. Sometimes I don't remember the whole melody, and they all sound great, but just not as memorable compared to other Mario titles in the past. And one thing that I will mention, even though finding the power moons is kind of difficult because it makes you faint, in terms of like difficulty, like say dying a lot or having a tough enemy or cursing at the screen for dying from a boss, I never really had that issue. Now granted, I'm not picky on challenge. I mean, there's nothing wrong with an easy game, but sometimes, especially for how big the game is, you would think that there'll be a lot more hard challenges, but there's really not. Even the bosses, even though some of the bosses are great, the battles are, well, poor. I mean, granted, the bunnies, and I love bunnies, but the battles, they're not that challenging, and over time, they don't really change up that much. Now, granted, try not to do spoilers for this review. When you get to a post-game kingdom, you do go through the bottles again, using one life, not getting your health back, etc. It is a little difficult, but not as hard. And that is kind of a disappointment because I was expecting the bottles would be challenging, but they're not, and they don't change the tactics that much. But despite some of the musical compositions not sticking out as much, or the challenge being there, one thing that this game makes up for is one word: imagination. This game is so imaginative, so creative, and I love how the team rejuvenated the whole Mario formula and made this amazing title. In fact, I'm gonna be honest here, I actually cried one point in the game. There's a... I'm gonna spoil this part here. When you get to the Metroid Kingdom, there's a festival you go to, and you see Mario in this little 8-bit level that resembles the Donkey Kong arcade game. And I cried in this stage because it was beautiful, but it also made me realize how far we come with the whole Super Mario series. It's just a legacy that no other video game franchise can compare. We've seen Mario come a long way, from being the simple arcade hero trying to save his damsel in distress from this monkey, up to now. It just shows the evolution how legendary the Mario franchise is. Sure, I know it gets bored trying to save the princess, but you could tell how much he has fun exploring all these new worlds, all these new levels, and meeting all these new characters, and just having fun collecting all the moons, stars, shine sprites, and whatever, and enjoying life throughout these games. Sure, some games don't stick out as much, but you can always tell that the developers tried a way to get Mario be to play themselves and to have fun, and realize that games don't need to be serious, be gory, or have frontal nudity in them. Basic fun is all that Mario is, and that's what I really love about the Mario series. So, in conclusion, it's hard for me to say what Super Mario Odyssey ranks on my list. It really is, because Galaxy 2 and 64 are my favorites, but I can safely say that Mario Odyssey is without a doubt my game of 2017. Yes, I love Breath of the Wild, but if I really had to choose, Mario Odyssey is without a doubt a fantastic game, and it really shows the funness and legendary of Mario, and I just love it. I really do, and I almost gonna cry in that speech, holy hell. And that's all the time we have for today, folks. So, if you liked today's video, please comment down below. What are your thoughts on Mario Odyssey? Do you think it's your favorite Mario game of all time? Or do you prefer more other Mario titles? I say when I redo my whole favorite top 10 Mario games list, it'll be changed by then. It may be number 1, it may be like number 3, who knows. I can say that I just had a fantastic time with this game, and I highly recommend it. If you have a Switch or beginning to get a Switch, I highly recommend to get this superior title. It is such a fantastic game. So if you excuse me, I'm actually gonna take a nap. I mean it's 9 o'clock in the morning, but I work at night shift, so I get to sleep during the sun because the sun is so scary. Okie dokie. I'm gonna sleep. Yes? Oh, mamma mia. Oh. Well, finally you showed up. It's been like a week. Where have you been?
Are you kidding me? After you called, I went to grab a cab and it had a flat tire and I had to walk all the way over here.
But your hat.
Okay, hover, fly, whatever you want to call it.
Look, you're late and I kind of already filmed a bit.
What'd you do that for?
Because I wanted to get the video fast.
Yeah, buddy, I'm not gonna argue with you. You just said that it's really hard being a hat. You ever been a hat before and you had a flat tire in a taxi and you're trying to figure out which way is go?
Okay, Yuck, to make up for all the confusion and delay, I'll give you the money for coming over and filming a bit, as well as do some extra fee charges, if that'll make up for it.
Oh, well, my friend, you really know how to do bad business.
I've been told that many of times, and yeah. Here, let me grab the money from you.
A few minutes later.
Well, that kinda sucks. Oh well, I'll just have to... No, not the bird! Give me up, give me up! Give me up, I don't want to get... Ah!
Ah, it's a good thing I did remember to get the clothes out. Otherwise, that giant bird would have torn up this beautiful shirt. Well, wait a minute. Was I in the middle of a comfort?
Nah.